It's time now for our 360 round. For that, let's bring in our panel to discuss AMD's recent earnings. Joining us, Matthew Bryson, Senior Vice President, Equity Research at Wedbush Securities, and Kim Forrest, the Founder, Chief Investment Officer at Boca Capital Partners. Thank you both for being with us. Kim, I'll start with you. AMD beat on earnings. They laid out a pretty ambitious AI roadmap, yet we are seeing shares under pressure today while the market on the whole is higher. Is this just profit taking here, or are there some potential issues you're seeing under the hood in the report?
Well, I think it's a little bit of profit taking because, they've done really well this year. But I'm never a profit taking first sort of person that says, oh, that's the reason why stock's trading down. There was some disappointment, mostly around data center margins or margins in general, a little bit of missing revenue, I guess, missing hoped for revenue in data center. And those are the reasons why some AI investors are trading this away today, selling it.
And Matthew, coming over to you, you're still very bullish on AMD. I saw that you raised your price target to $270. You called the new agreements with OpenAI and Oracle a line of sight into some potentially huge AI growth revenue. Can you walk us through your confidence behind this thesis?
Yeah, so I think that the stock's actually recovered nicely today. What we got from earnings was really them telling us the same thing Intel did, which is their core businesses were stronger. I think where people were a little disappointed was that you didn't get much more visibility in the AI side. Part of the difficulty with AMD is this revenue gets generated by their next platform, MI450. It comes in late next year, so you're not going to see sales right now. There's not a whole lot that they can give us a tangible that's going to tell us exactly what that revenue stream is going to look like. And so a whole lot probably depends more on their analyst day next week when they lay out perhaps exactly what those ramps, and particularly that OpenAI ramp, might look like.
And Kim, you've mentioned a few times that AMD, has been a strong competitor to NVIDIA for years. With these new AI partnerships and the potential revenue growth drivers that they could be, how close do you think AMD is to closing that gap? And how much information might we get at that Analyst Day?
Well, I think the analyst is right that Analyst Day, or the other guy on this call, is completely correct that Analyst Day is going to lay out a really important roadmap for AMD. And yes, they have the history of competing against NVIDIA in GPU, and AMD's always been the cheaper product, right? The less expensive product. And I think as time goes on, not every data center is going to need whatever the newest, most expensive thing from Blackwell, that there is a place for AMD, and hopefully that this roadmap is going to show that I think a lot of people are lining up to make sure that they can get that product with the alliances with AMD, as you mentioned. So I think that, yes, there is a road ahead. I don't think it's ever going to replace NVIDIA, because NVIDIA wants to be the fastest, the bestest, and the most expensive. And that's really not what the history of AMD has been. So I always look to the past to inform the future, and I think AMD is a great addition to anybody's semiconductor AI lineup here.
And Matthew, I want to walk through some of the numbers that you're projecting. You're projecting $10 billion in AI data center revenue by 2026, doubling that to $20 billion by 2027. What's driving that ramp, and how realistic is it given the competition?
Yeah, so when they talk about that OpenAI deal, they're talking about 6 gigawatts. Each gigawatt, I think, is 20 billion in revenue. So you're talking about over 20 billion annualized. Their other customers are, I think, next year at around that 10 billion number. And so I would argue that my 27 numbers are kind of conservative if they execute, because ostensibly, if they ship a gigawatt in 27, I mean, you're talking something that's closer to 30 billion than 20 billion.
All right, and Kim, coming over to you, AMD now has recovered from some of the pullback we saw. They're up 1%, but they're up sharply just this year, more than 100%. And some say the stock is priced perfection, Matthew being one of those that says it deserves that premium multiple of, roughly 30 times given the growth trajectory. What do you think is the next big catalyst that could move shares higher from here?
Well, I think demand is the biggest thing, right? Like as Matthew points out, their capacity is probably constrained with the deals it already has. So I think Taiwan Semi is everybody's kind of gating factor here because they're the company that's making it. And I think we all have to watch as physical reality hits the AI demand for both power and chips. This is a physical world making an online world, right? A virtual world. But physical wins all the time. So I think investors really have to understand the physical limitations that these companies are up against. And that's making the product. Even if it's in demand in a high amount, you have to make the product. And at this point, Taiwan Semi is the company that is making those products. So they have to continue to expand as well.
Yeah, Taiwan Semi is the linchpin. Certainly not the first time that we've heard that. Want to thank you both for being with us to talk about AMD, posing a recovery now up more than 1% after the drop-off we saw on the heels of its earnings. That's Matthew Bryson from Wedbush Securities and Kim Forrest from Boca Capital Partners.